Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to East Central Missouri and the world, and welcome to the James Strong Show podcast, podcast number 217. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I appreciate it. This podcast was recorded on the evening of Wednesday, April the 28th, from the Hampton Inn in Martinsburg, West Virginia. That's right. Last week, the trophy wife and I traveled to Sarasota for a nice vacation. We're fully vaccinated. Things were getting better. It was time to go. Time to get out. Time to enjoy ourselves. And last week's podcast outlined that vacation. We had a great time. The very next week, I'm out working. So I'm in the eastern United States this week, seeing customers and trying my best to get back into the swing of things. Again, I'm fully vaccinated, so I feel very safe. Things are getting back to normal. The airports are crowded. The planes are nearly full. All the restaurants are open. The hotels, this hotel's about halfway full. That's about it. And the services are very limited. I understand why they're doing it that way. They were hurt bad. They're still not back to where they need to be, and they're just trying to stay afloat until this whole pandemic passes. So I get that. But for the most part, outside of having to wear a mask in public, if you're indoors with people, other than that, we're fine. It's business as usual, kind of. At least certainly business as usual, closer to usual than before. So 2 weeks in a row traveling, getting back into the swing of things, feeling very confident that things are getting much, much better. The podcast today has to do with conspiracy theories, okay? For most of my life, at the very least, all of my adult life, I've been a big fan of conspiracy theories, okay? But over the years, conspiracy theories have changed. They've changed, okay? They're just different than they used to be. I'm going to go into that in my essay as to how they're different, how they've changed, and what conspiracy theories, in my opinion, of course, are for real and which ones are a bunch of baloney, okay? Before we do that, I did have a couple of things I wanted to touch base on. The first is the continuing Jaguar update. My father and I, my brothers, my sons were in the process of restoring my father's 1951 Jaguar Mark 7. I get a chance to work on that thing about once a week. And I did last Saturday. Last Saturday, I was able to remove the entire exhaust system, including the headers off of the exhaust manifold. The last of the brake lines were removed. The speedometer cable was removed. And I started removing the fuel tanks. There's 2 of them in that car. Progress continues on, actually, a lot better than I thought it would. Again, as I learn this car, as I spend time underneath it, looking at diagrams, becoming familiar with it, become less scared of taking something apart because I'm afraid I will forget how to put it back together again. Progress continues to move forward. So again, hopefully by June, we'll have this thing all apart and ready to go to the resto guy to do his job and then get it back to us to put it back together. So progress is progressing. How's that? Just wanted to note just for a moment, very, very briefly, on the Oscars this week. First of all, I didn't watch them. I don't watch them. I haven't watched them for many years. Now, once upon a time, I used to watch them all the time. I used to hang on their every word. I used to really, really enjoy watching the Oscars. And the reason is because I was really interested in the movies that Hollywood put out there. Hollywood and the other people as well, okay? The international people. I was a big fan of the movies. Because to me, movies were entertaining. They were escapism. They were art. They told a good story. I enjoyed spending my money at the movies. I used to go about once a week. And sometimes, like if you go to the drive-in, you'd see 3 movies, a triple feature. So I would watch, I don't know, on the average, probably 50 to 75 movies a year. So I watched a lot of movies, okay? not anymore. I really don't watch them. And I think it's because the movies have changed and I have changed. And the movies that are being put out right now, I really have absolutely no interest in seeing the vast majority of them. Okay, sure. I'll see the Bond films when they come out. I'll see a very well acted movie that is just on a subject that I really enjoy, like the Finest Hour, the Winston Churchill movie starring Gary Oldman that came out a couple of years ago. Other than that, if I'm not on an airplane with nothing else to do but but pass away 13 hours while flying to Asia, I'm not going to watch movies because I've got other things to do with 1.5 to 3.5 hours of my life. Okay, and I really don't blame the movies so much because anymore it's a money thing, and I get that. I don't believe Hollywood has any creativity anymore. Everything is a remake, it's a retell, it's another story, or it's just about comic books and or superheroes. Stuff that, I was interested in that kind of stuff when I was 7 or 12. Doesn't interest me anymore. The special effects are wonderful. I mean, the special effects today compared to the special effects in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s when I watched a lot of movies, there's no comparison. Okay, they're much better today. But special effects can only go so far. And once you've seen them, you think, wow, that was cool. Now it's time to move on. Okay, that's just me. But the most telling reason why I don't watch the Oscars, again, because I'm not interested in the movies. I'm not interested in that business anymore. I'm not interested in the product that they sell. I had somebody who was kind of in that business, and I mentioned that to him. And basically, he looked at me rather smugly. Okay, he was a younger man. And he looked at me rather smugly. And he said, well, here's what you've got to understand. Talking down to me, like I was his underling. Here's something you need to understand. Your age, your sex, your ethnicity, you're not our target audience. Hollywood really isn't interested in catering to what you find interesting. And my response to him was, you're absolutely right. They're not interested in me. They don't want my business. They don't want my money, and I don't want to give it to them. So we kind of agree. And he didn't know what to say. I guess he expected me to refute it, to say this, say that, say, well, back in the old days, we used to see this and this and that. Okay, I didn't do that. I just agreed with him. And the motion picture industry, to me, many of you out there listening to this podcast may disagree, but for the most part, the motion picture industry today, they don't produce a product that interests me in the least. And there's only so many hours in the day, much of which I have to sleep, much of which I have to work, much of which I have to do the stuff around the homestead to make things go, okay? So I have a very finite amount of spare time. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to spend it watching your product if it doesn't entertain me. And I don't think any time in the near future, or maybe for the rest of my life, that's going to change, because if I don't like what you're making now, and you're not interested in making something that I like, hasta la vista, baby. We're kind of done. So, and I think that's why people don't watch the Oscars, because the Oscars were watched because people wanted to see the movie they were interested in. And I heard an interesting statistic. The blockbuster movie that Titanic, okay, that was a huge movie, a big blockbuster movie. And I forget the statistic, but X amount of people watched the Oscars that year. And that wasn't that long ago. What, 15, 20 years ago maybe, when Titanic was made, 20 years ago, I guess. I don't know. But anymore, I mean, the Oscar ratings this last time were 20% of the audience that watched the Oscars the year that Titanic came out. 20%. Not 20% down. 20% of. And I want to say the figures were something like 50 million people watched it during Titanic, and 9.8 million people watched it this time around, something along those lines. Don't quote me on those exact figures. But when you've lost 80% of your audience to a show that basically is a rolling advertisement for your industry, that should be telling. And you don't ever want to tell anybody, no matter how old or manly or white they are, that you're not our target audience. We don't want your business. That, my friends, is just bad business. Okay, on to conspiracy theories. I've been a big conspiracy theory fan all my life, but I guess maybe like the motion pictures, conspiracy theories have changed in the past years. So I did a lot of research on this, and my sources for this podcast were People Magazine, USA Today, CNN, the New York Post, Fox 8 News, a local news channel here in West Virginia, and The Bite, and MysteryWire.com. So I researched those about different conspiracy theories and the like. The biggest conspiracy theory nowadays are the UFOs. Okay, that's the big story. The pyramid UFOs, especially. That's the latest UFO UAP sighting by government officials, military officials, in the last week or so. But conspiracy theories in general. Okay, and a friend of mine sent me an email, and the headline said, American dollars at work. And the story was about a big mall in China. Okay, it was a huge mall in China that has been built, and it's the biggest building in the world. Something like 55 football fields would fit in this building. The flat screen TV you watch in this building is longer than the Statue of Liberty is tall. This thing is huge, and it's got everything. It's got a beach in there. Okay, there's a beach in this shopping mall. There's a hotel. There's restaurants. Of course, stores. It's primarily for shopping. Okay, and I don't care what you think about the Chinese, their government, whatever. This is a big deal. This is a huge, fantastic undertaking by mankind to build a building like this. It's a big deal. And U.S. dollars have nothing to do with it in the whole story. I watched the whole story. So the headline was just clickbait, okay? It was an interesting story. I'm glad I read it. I know something now. But it is not our American dollars at work. It's Chinese dollars at work. Chinese RMB at work, I guess I should say. That's their currency. But it had absolutely nothing to do with U.S. dollars. Now, I don't know how many people read that headline, saw the video, but didn't watch the video and thought, well, here we go. We're funding malls over in China. No, we're not. That's the conspiracy theory, the types of conspiracy theories that are not only not fun, they're dangerous, they're hateful, and they're harmful. And they cause us to point a finger at our fellow man and criticize them for no reason at all. Conspiracy theories used to be fun because you probably knew that they were true, but some of the facts maybe didn't make sense, okay? The king of the conspiracy theories for me was Art Bell. Art Bell he would come up with Area 51 conspiracy theories. He would come up with the Bilderbergers and the Trilateral Commissions and the globalists, but it was in a way that, okay, we know that rich men have more power than poor men, but look how much power they might have. Look what somebody says, and it could be, and even if it was true, it was rather harmless, okay? The biggest conspiracy theory of all time, in America anyway, the Kennedy assassination, okay? You had the Lincoln-Kennedy links. You had the magic bullet. You had Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean, never came to trial. He was shot by Jack Ruby, who then died of cancer, who never testified. So, and a bunch of other